Good morning and welcome to the November monthly member briefing. Did I say November? This year has gone so quickly, it's amazing. But welcome. I'm Thomas Deere. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Engagement at the Chamber, and I have the privilege of being your host today. A big thank you for each of you for making us part of your day, and thank you for your partnership. These sessions are designed to provide you with information, solutions, and connections needed to keep your businesses thriving. Today, you've joined in listen-only mode with your microphones and cameras muted, but we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the program using the Zoom chat box. Please do ask questions because I know things are going to come up. I want to thank our media sponsor, the Cincinnati Business Courier, for their continued support of our monthly member briefings. Without them, this would not be possible. We have an outstanding lineup today. We've been visiting offline, and I know you're going to enjoy it. It's my pleasure to welcome Jill Meyer, the CEO of the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber. Jill, take it away.
Thank you, Thomas. Good morning, everybody. It is, as Thomas says, it is November. How did we get here? I'm going to tell you how we got here because we had an incredibly busy October since we were last together. I hope it goes without saying that all of you came to Blink because if you didn't, 2 million of your closest friends did and you missed the party. Such a great celebration of our community, who we are, and frankly, who we are striving to be as we build our future city. It was off the charts this year. I'll take today too. I hope you came. And here's what I'll tell you is that looking forward, expect to see and hear and learn more about how we can continue to make Blink really tell the story of who we are and who we're striving to be. Our new executive director, Justin Brookhart, you heard from him in September, I believe. So you had no doubt that this was going to be a success, and we couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you to all of you who wrote checks to help us make that happen, and to all of you for showing up and being Cincinnati. That's what that gathering is all about, and you all made it happen. I want to tell you just a quick couple of other things before we get into our keynote, because we have a really, I'm excited for our speaker this morning. We just came back last week. We had a group of leaders on a leadership exchange, the City to City Leadership Exchange, which we do regularly at the Cincinnati Chamber. But this year it was different. It was the first time we did it in partnership with our friends at the Dayton Area Chamber. So we had 65 business leaders, civic leaders from across our two MSAs, Cincinnati and Dayton, traveled together to Dallas-Fort Worth. And what we were doing there was learning from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex about how they've grown, how they balance their individual interests within that Metroplex, but still drive a very hard brand that is the Dallas-Fort Worth, and that has their economy booming. People moving there, businesses locating there, really almost without them trying at this point. The scale was Texas scale. As they said, everything's bigger and more proud than Texas, and we certainly experienced that. But I tell you that because you in the past, I think, have heard us talk about the idea that we need to think more about Cincinnati and Dayton as one. We are Southwest Ohio, and when our two metro areas can really come together and start working in a deliberate manner to drive economics, think from CVG to Wright Pat, and plenty on either sides of those, there is an awful lot for all of us to be gained if we can learn to do better in that regard. So that's what we were there learning about. Stay tuned for more learnings to come from that. Last thing I'll say is that while we are gathered here virtually, and this is one of those, we learned it during COVID opportunities, and all of you have told us that you like it and we like it. And so we're so happy to continue this virtual gathering. But here's what I'll tell you. Lots of people want to be back in human contact with one another again at events. And we have certainly heard that from our member base. Thomas and team can tell you an awful lot about events like Cincy Blend, which is a morning coffee hour together, Cincy Social, which is a monthly cocktail party together, our Converge events that happen on a monthly basis. We have a new event built around increasing our STEM talent. That's happening quarterly. People want to be back together. And that makes us really happy because we know that where people are, energy is, and economics continue to grow. So thank you for being here at this virtual gathering. And think about coming to our in-person gatherings if you haven't yet. You will be happy that you did, and you'll meet some new friends. You'll have one last big opportunity before 2022 ends. That is our Diversity Leadership Symposium. We've been doing that. Somebody can check me on this. I think this might be our 10th year. We will be in person at the Duke Energy. No, Duke Energy this year. Somebody, Brendan, chime in. Put it in the chat. But we are gathering on December the 14th, and it will be in person. And this is the half-day gathering where we dive deeply into diversity, inclusion, belonging topics, bringing in a national keynote speaker. Our friends at Fifth Third Bank continue to drive that forward for us, so we are grateful for them. And we hope to see all of you in person on December 14 for the Diversity Leadership Symposium. Okay, now on to the fun. When you signed on this morning, at least one person, Elizabeth Pierce, I see you out there, enjoyed our opening music of The Boss. And that was not just picked at random. That was picked after asking our keynote speaker some of her favorites. Moira Weir, if you've not met Moira yet, is our keynote speaker this morning, and we could not be more thrilled to have her in the house, so to speak. Yes, Moira's choices were The Boss or U2. Two good choices. The Chamber team went with The Boss, and you should be happy. So Moira joined the United Way in March of 2020. Pause for a minute and think about what was going on in your world in March of 2020. And I can tell you one thing about Moira, one fact that might tell you all you need to know about Moira, and it's this. Moira was slated to start her new job at the United Way, and then the pandemic hit. And what Moira did was started her new job at the United Way a week early. And she did that because she knew that the community was going to immediately be in dire need, and that the United Way needed to start running fast to help. So Moira showed up a week early in the midst of the pandemic to start building forward. How did Moira know this? Moira knew because she spent more than 20 years in a great career at Job and Family Services. You can read Moira's bio online, and you can, or you should, because you will find a woman who has dedicated her entire career to helping children and to helping families navigate the throes of poverty and all that that presents, the challenges and the different slice of life that some of our neighbors have to navigate. Moira can tell you the story about how she had chosen one career, became a big sister, a foster parent for a small child, and decided that that was where her career belonged. And we today in Cincinnati, frankly, for the last few decades, we have been enjoying the benefits of Moira's dedication to the children. Nobody cares more about this community than Moira Weir. And I have had the great honor of getting to know her since she's taken over her role. She is different about the way she has approached people in poverty in our community and looking at the systems that we have in place, not just we in Cincinnati, we as a world, as a nation, as a state, and as a city and a community. And she is fearlessly forging ahead, trying to implement new systems to help make sure that more people can enjoy all the benefits of the great community that we have. And she is very appropriately leaning on the rest of us to lean in new ways, deliberate ways, with our time as well as our monetary resources to help change the story about what is possible for every Cincinnatian to be able to thrive in our community. So with that, I am going to turn off my mic and invite Moira Weir to take the stage. Moira, you are a great friend and a great asset for our whole community, and we are so delighted that you are.
Thank you so much, Jill. That was an awesome welcome, and thank you for having me this morning. And also, it's just great to be with you all. And I hope, you know, we're in our peak fundraising season and things are going fantastic. We have been privileged to have the leadership, the volunteer leadership of Greg Carmichael and the Fifth Third team leading the campaign this year. And it's been really amazing. And I hope each of you have perhaps had an opportunity to hear about the United Way specifically and really our case for support. So Spencer, if you could go to the first slide, that would be great. So really, I'm here this morning because I want to share a little about your United Way, specifically where we've been, where we're going, the strategic transformation that's occurred since March of 2020. It's been exciting and challenging, but rewarding, and also what we're pursuing and what we hope to pursue, not only with all of you in this room, but within the region. So many of you might, like many of you, I'm sure in the last 2 years in particular, or 3 years, have had to assess your business. And we at the United Way did the exact same thing. We had to be really intentional and reassess the best pathway forward for the United Way as we think about the current needs of our community and really how we drive that work through our 10 counties across Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. So if you go to the next slide, you know, I want to talk a little bit about who we are. And I think a lot of people, when they think of the United Way, I thought about this too, before I had the honor of being in this position, I thought of them as a fundraising organization. And really what I want to say is we are actually an impact organization first. And if we can't drive impact, then we really shouldn't exist. And so we have been really intentional about embracing that concept about impact first, driven by community voice. And we're driving results with every family, every community leader and member in our region. And how do we do that? Well, we really want to think about achieving economic well-being for everyone. We want to think about how can everyone in our region, no matter where you live, where you sleep tonight, has the ability to have financial stability, but better yet, mobility. And we also want to think about how we can have equal access across the region for strong educational opportunities as well as healthcare. And then we also, most importantly, want to make sure that everyone in our region has safe, affordable, secure housing. So that is something that we've been really thinking strongly about the United Way with support from the community. And really what we're doing with that is really bringing community voice into those conversations and really challenging ourselves to think about how do we do things differently and how do we better utilize the investments that we have, the influence that we have, and really how do we continue to look for the gaps that exist in our ecosystem so that we're really helping families. So if you go to the next slide, please. I'll talk a little bit about this journey of transformation, and it's been really an amazing journey. We've learned a lot, we're continuing to learn a lot, and just to kind of level set folks a little bit, you know, we haven't changed in that. We've always thought about how do we use our investments, how do we use our influence, and how do we use our services. And when I think about investments, that's really about how do we drive system change through those investments? How can we be innovative? How can we have more effective solutions? How can we accelerate collaboration, but also really drive access to our funding, meaning and diversity of access to our funding, meaning many people can partake in this opportunity across the region. When we also think about our influence, it's really important that we collect data, we share data, we research it, we dive into what the data tells us, we listen to what the communities tell us, and then we think about how can we improve the conditions that really are holding families back within our region. And then with that knowledge and that wealth of information and what we're learning, we then have to challenge ourselves to be strong advocates for policy and system change in our region. And really, how do we all lean together to do that on behalf of services, on behalf of families? And the last thing that we do is we've always been a service provider, but we haven't been really well organized in that in terms of how we do that. So we're going to continue to think about the programs that we already have internally, but also how do we make sure we're connecting families within the ecosystem to have better connections as they access services. So we're really thinking about leveraging partnerships to fill those gaps and also connect families to resources within the broader system of care. And as Jill mentioned, the story that I had coming to this position, one of the things that I really thought about and that was really inspiring for me about this role is when I was approached by some business leaders to take it is really, number one, the passion and dedication of both the board and the community at large to say we need transformational change. And really folks believed very strongly that we wanted a strong United Way in our region to really help drive that change. And of course, as Jill mentioned, I spent so much time in the public sector, really seeing the challenges that families face day in and day out, the heartache, the frustration, but also the hope and the excitement and resiliency of the opportunities. And I thought to myself, what if we could really get ahead of the system? Meaning every day I was boots on the ground, the safety net, and we were doing incredibly important work, but we could never really think about prevention or removing barriers. So I really was excited about this opportunity. And then the other thing that we had to think, and we just have our poverty rate slide up here, is that we had to think about, so what have we been doing for the past, as you see, 20 plus years? We haven't really moved that needle. So we had to say to ourselves, the poverty rates have remained somewhat flat. Families we know since COVID are actually have experienced more hardship. So programming our way out of poverty isn't working, meaning the day-to-day band-aids and programs are important, but it's really not solving these complex issues. So we said to ourselves, if we really want to approach this in a different way, and we want to shift the power base so that all can be involved, we also had to co-create solutions with community voice, and also think about how can we do things different. So we really wanted to reckon with the fact that the poverty rates in our region aren't changing, but we also knew that we as a region had experience to do something about something, have intentionality. And I want to draw your attention to early education and making sure all children were ready for kindergarten. And this region dug in, and they did not only programming, they thought about policies, they thought about practices. And 10 years later, we know that children are ready for kindergarten, 1.5% more than they were before. We also know, sadly, that because of COVID, we've had a little bit of setback. But I say that to say that gave us really the courage to think about how can we really do things differently? How can we not only address today's problems, but think about changing conditions for future generations, changing the trajectory for families, and really thinking about breaking the cycle of generational poverty. And so it takes a lot of courage. And so I will say the board was courageous, the team here, the community was really team to say, how do we lean in and think about things differently to really address, as Jill had mentioned, those root causes, the things and systems that keep families from really having their agency over their life and really thriving. And we wanted to tackle these head on. So it meant that we had to revisit some partnerships that we've had for a long time and get really focused in on who best can we work with hand in hand to really think about system change. And it's not that those organizations that we didn't continue to partner with weren't doing great work. It's just that every day of their existence isn't around economic mobility and stability. So we really wanted to be intentional with the dollars that we had and really be laser focused on this concept that everybody in our community should have not only economic stability, but mobility. And the last thing I'll say before I move on is that we also know nationally, major foundations like Ford Foundation and Lilly Foundation are really investing in system change work. And many of you might know McKinsey Scott invested in us to do specifically system change work. So I want you to know that this work is not done in isolation. It's done with collaboration across the country with great leaders that are doing this, but also with key volunteers within the community that kind of came together. It said, how do we really want to address this difficult system change work, and how do we really want to think about removing barriers for family so that everybody can thrive? And the one thing awesome about the United Way, and I think the fact that we are so well positioned to work not only with the private, the sector, the public sector, the social sector, we get to interact with leaders, both in the business community, faith-based community. We're always interacting with voices within the community to say, how do we really come together and best support this ecosystem so all families thrive? So that's really the transformation that you'll see in terms of the case for the change. If you go to the next slide, please. I want to talk about what was something that I knew intuitively, but really became more apparent when we were doing our conversations in the community. And we had hundreds, thousands of conversations. One thing that came up time and time again, and I knew this from my prior experience at JFS, is safe, affordable housing. And if you think about, if you don't know where you're going to sleep tonight, or you're worried about if you're going to have a place to sleep for the next month, it's hard to focus going to work. We know children miss more school because of homelessness. So we really want to think about in a region, how do we collectively come together and address this issue? We also want to continue to build on this great work that we've been doing with Kids Ready. We've been intentional around this community about doing that. We want to continue to do that. So all children in our community have access to quality preschool education, and they're ready for kindergarten. The next thing that we heard time and time again, and I just know this from being a practitioner for so many years, is the disconnect between youth and the adult system, and youth get lost in that transition. So we really want to concentrate on the next generation. Children are our future. So how do we invest to make sure that every youth thinks about, number one, staying in school? We want them to graduate or get their GED. We want them to be hopeful about the future. Maybe I can go to college. Maybe I can get a trade. And with all of this, we also know that we have to think about how are we as the ecosystem really being equitable and inclusive and including everyone? And then really, what are we doing to build stronger communities? So I call these our 6 portfolios. And we have within these portfolios 86 system change partners that have said to us, we want to work with you arm in arm every day to think about what can we do to not only meet the immediate needs, but really solve the issues that really are keeping our families from moving forward. So if you go to the next slide, we also really wanted to lean into some guiding principles and really to make sure that we stay committed to who and what we are. So one of the things we did, we had to take a look at ourselves internally. So we had to modernize our business, and we had to modernize some of our business practices, really to change with the marketplace. We had to not only rebuild some trust in the community, but then we also wanted to build trust in other parts of the community. An example of that is through our Black Empowerment Works grants. We really wanted to support Black social change makers as an example of the work that we did. We worked really hard and intentional about engaging the faith-based community in this work. And I will say that intuitively, I knew this from my prior position, but we saw during COVID, we all want to go to someone we trust. And sometimes that's not the well-branded organization. It's somebody in my community. It could be my place of worship. So we wanted to lean into those practices and those partners to say, let us learn from you, be a part of this, this journey with us. So we really expanded our relationships across the sector to make sure really everybody is included and there's voice, and that we really are coming together to think about things that are happening. And at the same time, internally, we had to face some things about what we were doing. We were structured the right way. We had to really think about where we needed to be more aligned with the changing environment. We did things like we had to eliminate a underfunded benefit retirement plan, which we have successfully done. We've done some reorganization. So I say that to say that we really have tried to listen with community, act on these experiences, and continue to challenge ourselves to move forward. Go to the next slide. One of the things that I'm really proud of the team, and this hopefully will show you what we really try to do when I say we really thought about our structure internally and maximizing resources in the community. So the first thing we did is we said to ourselves, we need to continue to think about diversifying our revenue. And one of the things we were able to do, we were able to be a part of, again, a gap that was in the system that we were able to fill. So we brought in over $14.5 million to really help with rental and food emergency assistance. As I mentioned, we moved our frozen pension plan to an external management company. And the reason that was important, because that was a liability that was over our heads every year in terms of making sure we had dollars to support that. And now those dollars have been reverted back into the community. We also sunset several contracts. We're freeing up over $1 million. Again, those dollars were reverted back into the community. And then we did internal work. We reduced our head count by 37%. We also decreased some of our administrative costs, so we're down 23%. And we really eliminated some consultants and some other works. And all these things are important. Number one, we knew that we had to get better aligned in what was happening with the community, but we also wanted to reinvest more dollars back into the community because we knew the community needed it more, and that's really our purpose. So if you go to the next slide. So where we're going and where we're hoping to do, we're going to continue to work on the things that we do well. And I would say, as I've mentioned, we've always done services, but you probably and hopefully have heard of 211, our care coordination, our tax prep, and our project lift. But what I would say is we probably haven't always been well coordinated with that. So we really are focusing on coordinating those efforts and also making sure we can be an entry point of care and connecting families with resources throughout the region. And we see this as, again, filling gaps. We're not competing with anybody. We don't want to do duplication of services. We want to fill needs where gaps are, and then hopefully fill those gaps. We want to really lift up collaborative work and leverage new relationships, old relationships, and really look at this collective support. And then we're also looking at unique opportunities that may exist currently or in the future, and then how do we use our unique position and where we sit in the sector to really help build on those relationships. If you go to the next slide. you know, the big thing is like, how do we measure ourselves? You know, we have to, I keep telling the team here, we have to now deliver on our promise. If we really talk about system change, or what are we going to do? And as many of you know, if you think about changing culture within your company, that's really tough. If you think about changing culture throughout the region, that's even harder. So system change work takes time, it takes persistence, it takes perseverance, but I'm super excited about it because I believe we are at a pivotal point in our region that we can make that. So when we bring our 6 portfolios together of our 86 partners to talk about advancing the system change, we're going to be diagnosing the challenges or what we see as the problems. We're looking for opportunities. We're thinking about how do we collectively come together and collaborate to create strategies to break down those barriers. So we're really coming together arm in arm thinking, okay, what can we do here? What can we do here collectively? And what happens often with all of our business, when you're acting alone, you can't always think about the collective impact. And this is our opportunity to bring that collective impact. A lot of our colleagues don't have time to focus on the collective impact. They're just, you know, as they're doing the day-to-day business. So this is for us a great opportunity to think about convening partners and really diversifying experiences, bringing diverse thought to the table, and really thinking about the system inequities and the barriers and really more moving forward. And one thing that I'm excited about that, you know, others have been hearing what we're doing and excited that, and we're seeing some positive signals from the community. You probably saw that Bethesda's BI3 invested over $1 million in our Black Empowerment Works group. The work that we're doing where they're both through the social change and the grants. We also have been, we're going to continue to listen to community, and we're going to be launching our Knowledge Center, which is going to be all about collecting data, analyzing the data, amplifying the community voice, providing access to this information, and then creating platforms that you all can see. Are we really making movement? Are we having impact and sharing this? And then really, hopefully long-term impacting the national opportunities that we can really see system change work. So if you go to the last, I think it's my last slide, I just want to say some other exciting things that have happened, and I think then just really reinforces the excitement and the movement that we have an opportunity in front of us, and that how we're leveraging our relationships is that we just recently joined this eviction prevention program with a collaboration with Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing and Greenlight and several other partners. Again, it ties nicely into our housing portfolio about making sure families have stability. We want to think about not only making sure families have stability, but how are they then potentially collecting wealth to maybe own a home one day. We also are working very closely with our 211 folks to make sure that we have a recovery-friendly hotline. Recovery is very important. We know that in our industry, and we know that throughout the community. I'm very excited about a partnership we have with the Ohio Children's Trust. We were perfectly positioned based on our 211 data. And if you think about calls coming in with families in crisis, they shouldn't always be referred to child protection. So many calls get referred that don't need to be there. So we want to be a resource to keep calls from having to flood the 241 kids line, and really think about how do we keep those calls out of the system and really help families with the challenges that they're facing. And we have a great opportunity with our policy department. We're hiring there and making sure that we're doing our advocacy work both in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. We're going to expand our Project Lift to Northern Kentucky. And we're really going to continue to look at ways that we can diversify our revenue so that we can expand relationships beyond the workforce giving platform. And I'm just closing, I would like to say, I truly believe that we have a strong community. I also believe that you have a strong United Way, and collectively we can come together to really meet the challenges that are facing our families. And as Jill always says, that, you know, if we want to have a future city where our kids stay and our kids come back, we want them to be here. We want them to thrive. And I believe we are at an amazing point to make that happen. And the last thing I want to say is it's difficult to disrupt the status quo, but if not now, when? And I think it can be uncomfortable. And I say this to my team all the time, but we have to push through this discomfort. We have to find that common ground, and we have to find ourselves. I really believe in the end, we're going to find a region where we're all thriving. And, you know, at the end, we're all connected. We're all people who are connected, and we all want to belong. And so we want to really make sure that everyone in our community feels like they belong. So thank you for allowing me to share the United Way story today.
Moira, thank you so very much. I will, every time I hear you give this presentation, I pick up something different from it. So thank you for sharing it with our membership this morning. And to all of you, I rest my case. This woman has passion. She has the tools. She has the background, and is the opportunity for all of us to do better. You can help. It is United Way campaign season. If your workplace is having a campaign, please, please, please give. And if it is not having a campaign, please, please, please give. You can find your way to the United Way website. I'm sure you can contact Moira. Every bit helps, and it is really on all of us to take care of the rest of us. And so, Moira, thank you for your bold leadership. Thank you to the United Way team that I've been getting a front row seat and seeing them try, pilot, and do things differently. So we are very fortunate to have Moira in that seat, and we were especially fortunate, Moira, to have you here with us this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Thomas, the floor is yours.
Fantastic, Moira. That was terrific. To echo Jill's sentiments. Thank you for making our region a better place, and it's clear that the United Way of Greater Cincinnati is in great hands. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce two chamber members who have been making an impact in the community. First up is Doug Frutel, VP and Visionary at the Radiant Technology Group. With 30 years of experience in audiovisual industry, his experience includes a diverse range of enterprise business technology that includes data visualization, digital communication, web conferencing, and voice solution. Doug consults and prescribes solutions and services to take companies from idea to implementation with greater speed and efficiency. Doug, let me change some things up on this call. Let me ask you a few questions about Radiant. First of all, welcome. Second of all, the Chamber is very familiar with Radiant Technology's work. When our conference room needed a technology refresh, we turned to Radiant. But I know they do much more than that. Doug, can you elaborate on your core business offerings?
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. And it's great to be on, and especially I feel humbled to follow Moira on the incredible work that she's doing. So I'd like to also commend her for that. So, but yeah, Radiant Technology, we just surpassed 21 years in business, creating unique digital experiences that help transform the way organizations engage with end users and how end users engage with each other using various audiovisual technologies. So we help organizations achieve specific outcomes where enhanced collaboration and digital signage solutions can make impact. So we work with a lot of large enterprises to be an extension of their team, offering a wide variety of services, including consulting and design. We call that our blueprint services. So we'll work with leadership teams and really understanding and creating a blueprint for how collaboration and digital signage can actually transform their organizations. And then we have procurement and implementation services. And most importantly, we have support and managed services that really help our customers maintain and make sure that they're getting the return on investment that they were wanting to have with making these significant investments.
Doug, you mentioned a couple times that you mentioned working to help clients achieve their outcomes. What are the most common outcomes businesses are looking for?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things right now is because of this shift of work from anywhere. COVID showed us that how effective it is for people to be able to work from home. I think a lot of organizations were kind of surprised that they were able to maintain a lot of productivity and success with mobilizing their workforces. But a lot of organizations are kind of left with the challenge as they're thinking about, well, what is this new style of work? How do we enhance this work from anywhere? And one of the challenges that a lot of organizations are having is related to trying to maintain that innovation and ideation that is so natural within an office environment that kind of gets lost virtually. And so one of the outcomes that we've been really helping a lot of organizations work with is how do we create kind of the modern workplace, really that shift around converting that traditional office space into be more of a hub, a place for communities to be able to come together and have those areas for ideation and innovation and drive culture and those things that you just really can only achieve having in real time. And obviously the outcomes that we're helping those organizations identify is maintaining those that impact. So, as companies are trying to be innovative and drive new ideas, and how do we accommodate this new workforce?
Great. Doug, you talked about work from anywhere, and I know firsthand you guys have a unique way of staying connected with your clients during the pandemic. I was fortunate, I don't know if I was fortunate or not, I was fortunate, I'm teasing, to participate virtually in one of your executive bourbon forums.
Yep.
When I say I wasn't much of a bourbon expert, but I sure learned a lot about it and your business. Can you tell us, the group, more about that unique experience? Because I always say, I tell the people that I meet about it, but until you participated, it's hard to share. Can you share about that great experience?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of organizations found new ways of doing things that were impacted from the pandemic. And one of my great benefits in this job is being a visionary, is doing vision building sessions with our customers. And the challenge with the pandemic is that was usually something I would do on site with leadership teams and walk around in office environments, and I was no longer able to do that. And so, especially for as long as the pandemic took, I was like, well, that's kind of a big shift in what my core work was. And so I've always been a passionate bourbon enthusiast. And one of the things that I actually did over the early on in the pandemic was I went and got my certified executive bourbon steward certification and learned how to lead bourbon tastings. And so me and a few of our sales reps had the idea of like, well, hey, let's send out bourbon to clients and do virtual, tastings and stuff like that. And it just really became successful. So then we were able to kind of do those vision buildings over some bourbon with leadership teams, but then that even transformed into what we call our executive bourbon forum. And that's where we'll pull leadership from a lot of different organizations together. And we will talk about topics around transformation and workplace change and those types of things. And it's also even then allowed to develop peer groups among a number of our customers and prospects. So it's been a really a great platform. And yeah, probably wouldn't have thought of it if it wasn't for the pandemic.
Yeah, Doug, I think our topic was virtual meeting equity. So not only did I learn more about that, it raised a lot of things that we can improve on, I can improve on, learned about bourbon, but it was also a great opportunity to network with other executives. So it was awesome. I do have one more question for you. For Radiant, what's the 2023 and beyond outlook? What's your biggest business challenge in this economic environment?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest, I think, outlooks for 2023 and beyond is this idea of the age of understanding. And it actually happens to be our next Executive Bourbon Forum topic. We've been moving out of this, or from this age of information, where we've been collecting all of this data and intelligence and so forth from our businesses. And, Gartner talks about, we only use about 3% of the data that we have within our organizations. And I feel like we're moving into this new age of understanding. And so with that is, as we're trying to understand our data and learn from it and actually generate wisdom from that, that's really going to be opening up a lot of new ideas and challenges. Is how do we use that information? How do we gain that understanding to actually impact transformation in our businesses? And for us, it's really how do we help then organizations more effectively collaborate, breaking down silos within the organization that were traditionally there, increasing conversations, getting access to data and calls to action. So that way companies can continue to be innovative and drive disruption and things like that. And so between that and continuing the conversation, you mentioned the meeting place and presence equity. Presence equity is trying to make collaboration, whether you're working from home or working at a coffee shop or in the office, but to make sure that everybody feels like they have equal presence is a really big challenge for organizations. So we're spending a lot of times working with organizations on meeting and presence equity to really make everybody feel like they're an active contributor whether they're working remotely or working on site. So those are probably some of the biggest areas.
Doug, thank you so much for your time today. This is great. This was a great forum, and thank you for such great insight and for being our partner. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. And thank you for having me. And
fantastic. Next up is Nathan Wright, the founder and president of Transformational Performance Solutions. Nathan is one of the country's foremost experts on maintenance, reliability, and transformational leadership. He has 40 years of experience in the field and a doctorate degree in organization development and leadership style. Using a unique coaching approach, he helps organizations improve peak performance by focusing on skill development through strategies and programs, maintenance and reliability, executive coaching, strategic planning, and meeting facilitation. Nathan, tell us more about TPS.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate the opportunity that the Chamber's offering me here to speak with y'all. Like Thomas said, Dr. Nathan Wright, right? I'm the president and owner of Transformational Performance Solutions. We are a service disabled veteran-owned small business that basically falls on the fact that I'm a disabled United States Navy veteran. So we're Cincinnati based. And if we go to the next slide. I like to call us a mentoring and coaching firm. We're a group of subject matter experts that help organizations weed through work through the weeds. I don't like using the term consultant just because consultants gets a bad rap a lot of times because there's so many consultants and not as many of them offering value. So I tend to call us a mentoring and coaching firm. Our areas of expertise, basically we come from, my colleagues and I have led some of the company's most iconic companies, right? Which include Caterpillar, Kraft Foods, Firestone, Northrop Grumman. So that's just to name a few. We work in 3 areas of our expertise, leadership development being one of them. Our style of leadership development comes from a foundation of centuries of research. Each of the colleagues that I have our own original research in this area, which contributed to our doctorates. We all have doctorates in organization development and change. My specific dissertation and my work has been done in the leadership area. Continuing, we also require of ourselves to continue to contribute to the body of knowledge in the leadership development area. So we're constantly giving back to those organizations, specifically through the Academy of Management. The second portion of ours says facility proactive reliability. That's basically maintenance and reliability, being proactive. This is probably the biggest bulk of our consultancy. I hate that term, of our firm's work. It's equipment focused. So industries that have equipment intensive organizations and stuff, this is really one of the last true competitive advantages that you can utilize, right? If you intelligently can cut cost and add value in this area, this is where you can get a big bang for your return on your investment. A 10% reduction in your maintenance cost is equivalent to a 40% increase in throughput. So we do that type of work for companies day in and day out. We work in the due diligence areas for organizations that are looking at greenfield or brownfield projects, or even in their capital appropriation process. We build and improve their reliability programs for them. And then lastly, we work in the skills development area. I don't like the term training because industry spends $170 billion a year on training, and we don't get a lot from that because human beings don't learn as well through training as they do development. So my team, actually, we cover every aspect of most organizations, right? We've all worked from anywhere from down in the labor field all the way up through executive personnel in the C-suite. So if you're working with one of the team members from our company, you're going to be working with somebody who's done the job that we're working alongside you in. So it's real world experience in your environment. And we also align all of our development programs with whatever certifying entities that are out there, their bodies of knowledge. My team consists of people who have hands-on experience. There's no desktop consultants in this business. We range everywhere from 40 years of experience, like you said, myself, down to recent graduates from the University of Cincinnati. And I think that's very important that we're looking for the young people coming out of the local universities. We don't go reaching out worldwide or anything. We look for the local universities to build our organization. In fact, our current junior personnel, we're all co-ops for us. So we work through the co-op program that they have at the University of Cincinnati. So we bring them on board. So we're building that next generation of folks. Many of us are decorated military veterans. I look to hire veterans any chance I get. Being a veteran myself, I know that value. And our organization is certified by the Academy of Management when it comes to leadership development. We hold certifications from the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals, the Project Management Institute, International Council for Machinery and Lubrication. If we have an area that we focus on, we work to get certifications in the education on top of our years of experience to be able to support those areas. And I know that may not have taken up all my time, but that's pretty much what we got, Thomas. I mean, in a nutshell, I look forward to getting a chance to speak with the members of the chamber.
Nathan, that was great. I love the fact that you're focused on building with real world experience and building from local universities. That just speaks to your involvement in the region. Thank you. And I want to thank you for your service as well to our country. So thank you today, Nathan. That was great.
Thank you, Thomas.
I want to thank these members for being part of our monthly member briefing. If you are interested in being part of them, please reach out to me at tdeer, that's with 3 E's, at CincinnatiChamber.com. The Cincinnati Regional Chamber has a total of 9 benefit partners that enhance your business and help you save money on an everyday basis. For our benefit partner, we're excited to have Barry McDaniel, risk consultant from Sheakley, who's our workers' comp partner. Sheakley is a longtime partner with the Chamber and was founded in 1963. They assist employers in navigating and simplifying the many complexities of risk management. I should underline complexities. Their comprehensive, results-oriented solutions are designed to create and maintain a culture of workplace safety that's going to reduce overall costs. We see that, minimize frequency and severity of claims, and ensures complete compliance. And I got to say, with Sheakley, when you partner with them, your risk is transferred into your reward. Barry, welcome, and tell us more.
Thanks, Thomas. One of the things I couldn't find, I know Sheakley has been working side by side as a partner of the Chamber for 31 years. And thousands of companies have been saving, and this was a number I can't find. It's literally millions, multi-millions of dollars in workers' comp savings have been delivered to people in this area based upon this partnership. And I'd love to get that number. One of these days, I'll find it. We work, and I'm going to keep this quick, in the different areas of employer risk. You can go ahead and change the next slide. I just want to hit these real quick. In workers' compensation, we work with 11,000 employers in Ohio. We reduce rates. There's state-approved programs. There's risk management, reducing the actual cost of the risk, whether it's through subrogation, settlements, and even handicap reimbursements that are available. We've got specialists where there's need to be specialists. We have account managers that been there at our company 20, 30 years. The reason I actually came to Sheakley, I worked with a competitor and I had so many people tell me I would never leave Sheakley. And I said, I got to go find out what they're doing over there. And I did. And now I've been here for 10 years. So they kind of sucked me in that way. Let's go to the next slide. I want to keep this moving for everyone. Unemployment, people are kind of thinking, well, we've had all this great unemployment, so it shouldn't be an issue. Unfortunately, the people have still been getting unemployment. And when there's every company you talk to is looking for people. So, and now, of course, the economy, now they're saying things are going to shift the other way. So this is one of the areas where we help employers manage, those costs, those risks, because it's a very timed sequence between a letter going out to an employer to when the employer receives it to when the employer has to respond to say, wait a second, I had to terminate this employee, for cause. So we help the employers ahead of time, be prepared. We help them actually at the moment that one of these claims is filed, how do we want to proceed? So the right people, who were let go for no fault of their own, we want to make sure those people are taken care of fairly, but at the same time, we need to protect, our employers and their costs. Let's go to the next slide. This is one very near and dear to my heart, drug-free safety. 80% of addicts have jobs. 17% of a given workforce are addicts. Addicts are 4 times more likely to injure someone else while on the job. There's been more programs put out through the state, more money put into this over the last couple of years to financially encourage employers to take more of an active role in fighting drug abuse, drug addiction. There's more flexibility, more scalability, more options, more reimbursements available to employers now than ever. And I'll get off my podium on that one. Let's go to the next slide. DOT. Now this is something where I actually just got involved in this a year ago, helping our DOT team kind of get the word out. And what I'm finding is so many employers don't even realize that they fall under DOT until it's too late, until a driver gets pulled over. Really for nothing, just a highway patrolman wanting to ask him some questions. A lot of people, what I'm finding, some of the biggest misconceptions are that people think, well, if this one part doesn't apply to me, then none of it applies to me. And it's kind of the opposite. If anything within DOT applies to you, then you're going to fall under DOT. And so a lot of employers are like, well, I'm all local, so I don't fall under DOT. Well, that's not correct. And the other thing is, if you don't fall under DOT, you still may fall under PUCO, and their regulations closely mirror those of the DOT on the federal level. So we're really helping people stay compliant with DOT. They can be one of the most confusing government entities that we help people work with. Let's go to the next slide. OSHA is so complicated that the safety manual itself is 270 pages. I don't know anyone who really knows that cover to cover. We have specialists within our office who really specialize even within different industries, construction versus manufacturing, because different codes, different regulations are going to apply to different industries in different ways. So on the one hand, we hear the employers saying OSHA so heavy of a burden to carry, but on the other hand, if you look at the numbers, the safety numbers of employees over the last 100 years, over the last 50 years since OSHA's even been in, you can see that workplaces are much safer than they used to be. So there's always that balance. How do you walk the fine line and stay compliant at the same time, without basically going so far overboard that you can't afford to run your operation. So we help those companies kind of navigate that. It can be a fine line. And then my last slide is OSHA record keeping. And this is one of these things, a lot of it is very counterintuitive, and companies get really confused at the end of the year when it's time to report their logged incidents and accidents. It's not as simple as, well, every lost time claim is OSHA reportable, or every OSHA reportable incident is a lost time claim. They don't go hand in hand that way. And over-reporting, we're finding out, could be just as bad as under-reporting. And so they're definitely, the employers to do best are the people who try to make OSHA their friend, rather than the employers who want to fight everything that OSHA says. And we're finding the same thing with DOT. Some employers, we're talking about DOT and we get a lot of pushback, like, no. And then, we did have a driver who was pulled over and, he was given a few citations and, now they're coming to visit the company. So we're really helping, our clients in every area we can stay compliant. It's one of those, what was that? An ounce of prevention's worth more than a pound of cure. And we do really appreciate our partnership with the Chamber. We're doing more. I know we're doing more even in safety with seminars, even in-person seminars now. And I hope to just keep growing that because I think there's a lot of our clients, our common clients, that we really we can help them before the need arises.
Fantastic. And, as you can hear, there's a lot of complexity, and I want you to let Barry and his team simplify those complexities. And to Barry's point earlier, I want to be very clear because I've seen the savings our members receive for partnering in this incredible partnership, and the amounts are astronomical. And there's no risk in a free quote. Reach out to Barry and his team. You may find it's not going to cost you anything. You may find you can save a lot of money with them, or you may get peace of mind that what you're doing is right. But thank you, Barry and Sheakley, for your partnership. We value everything we do going forward. Thank you.
We love working with the Chamber.
Likewise. I do want to address a couple upcoming events I want you to know about. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. November 9th, we'll have our second session of Diversity in STEM, which is a new program. We're in our second session. That'll be at 8:30 to 10 a.m. at the Ensemble Health Conference Center. November 16th, we have our Cincy Blend, our Copy and Connect, 8:15 to 9:30 in the morning at Bromwell's Hearth Room downtown. November 17th, we have Membership Benefits 101, where you can find out everything about your Chamber membership and how to improve your ROI. That'll be from 10 to 8:30 at the Chamber, and there is a hybrid option that you can come in virtually. December 1 is our next monthly member briefing. We're working on getting you the ideal group to speak. Look for that information. We should have that within probably the next 10 days. It's pending some of the election. And then lastly, December 14th is the 2022 Fifth Third Bank Diversity Leadership Symposium. That's from 8 to noon at the Duke Energy and Convention Center. And if you've been to the symposium in the past, you're in for an enlightening experience. If you've never been, I got to tell you, this is one of the key programs we put during the year. You're good. Trust me, it's worth your time. To learn more and to register for these events, please go to cincinnatiChamber.com/events. I do encourage you to bookmark that on your computer so they're right at your fingertips. Thank you again to everybody that's on the call. Make it a great